Have you ever had one of those days where everything seems fine until it isn't? Maybe someone cuts you off in traffic, or a family member says something just a little too sharp, or maybe the phone rings and it's a scam call for the 5th time today. Your blood pressure goes up, your breath shortens, and you can feel yourself slipping into frustration. Again, it's not that you're angry all the time. It's just that sometimes the world seems to pull you in 10 different directions. And at this age, when all you really want is a little peace, it can feel like calm is harder to hold on to than ever before. But here's something I wish someone had told me earlier. Your peace was never supposed to be in someone else's hands. Not in what they say. Not in what they do. Not in whether they get it or treat you the way you deserve. And no, this isn't about ignoring reality or pretending everything's fine when it isn't. It's about remembering something we often forget. You still have power. Even now. Especially now. You have the power to choose how you respond. You have the power to guard your calm like it's sacred. You have the power to step out of the noise and come home to yourself. So today, we're going to talk about 15 principles to help you protect that power. And not in a philosophical, high-in-the-sky kind of way, but in real, practical, heart-level truths that you can carry with you every single day. Let's start with this one. Peace is not in the hands of others. I know that sounds simple, but think about how much time we spend giving our peace away. One rude comment ruins the whole afternoon. One canceled plan leaves us stewing for days. One disagreement with a loved one, and suddenly we're replaying the conversation over and over in our heads. But here's the truth. No one makes us angry. They just trigger the parts of us that are already tender. They poke at old stories, deep expectations, or quiet wounds. That's why one person's offhand remark feels like a slap to the face. It's not just about what they said. It's about what we expected and didn't get. The moment we stop putting our peace in other people's hands, we begin to reclaim control over our inner world. And that leads us right into the second principle. True strength lies in inner power, not external control. So often we think strength means being loud, tough, or in charge. But real strength? It's quieter than that. It's the strength of walking away from an argument you know you could win, because you value peace more than pride. It's the strength of staying steady when someone else is falling apart. It's the strength of letting things go, not because you're weak, but because you're wise enough to know what's not worth your energy anymore. People talk about getting older like it's about slowing down, but what if instead it's about leveling up? In wisdom, in clarity, in calm. You've lived enough life to know what really matters. Now is the time to start living like it. Which brings us to something that trips up a lot of folks, no matter how old or wise they are. Anger. Let's talk about it honestly. Anger is not the enemy. It's the messenger. When we get angry, we usually think it's because someone wronged us. And maybe they did. But the anger itself, that fire in your chest, that clench in your jaw, that sudden rush of energy, that's not the enemy. It's trying to show you something. It's saying, hey, that hurt. Or, that crossed a line. Or sometimes even, that reminded me of a time I didn't feel respected, seen, or safe. Anger is just the emotional alarm bell. But too many of us treat it like a weapon. We lash out. We shut down. We say things we don't mean. And later, we sit in regret. But what if next time anger shows up, you paused and asked it, "What are you trying to tell me?" That pause, that breath, that beat, that moment of space can change everything. And that leads us to the next principle, the power of silence and a timely pause. Let me ask you, have you ever said something in the heat of the moment that you wish you could take back? We all have. But how often do we regret not saying something right away? Rarely. Silence, more often than not, protects us. Now, I'm not saying bite your tongue forever or let people walk all over you. Not at all. But I am saying, give yourself space. You don't have to respond right away. You don't have to fix it, defend yourself, or jump into battle. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let the moment pass. Let the temperature drop. Let your breath come back. And once you're centered, then speak. If you still need to. That kind of restraint isn't weakness. That's self-respect. That's maturity. That's wisdom that's been earned, not taught. And now that we've opened the door to this conversation about our inner reactions, there's another hidden culprit that often steals our calm without us even realizing it. Unspoken expectations. We all have them. You expect your kids to call. You expect your partner to read between the lines. You expect your friends to know what you need, without having to say it out loud. But here's the problem. Most of the time, they don't know. They don't know what lines you've drawn in your head. They don't know what promises you silently wrote in your heart. And when they break them without realizing it, it still hurts. The key is learning to let go of these silent contracts, or at the very least bring them into the light. Speak them, share them. And when someone still doesn't meet them, ask yourself, was this really about them? Or was this about what I hoped they'd be? Letting go of expectations doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop holding other people responsible for things they never agreed to in the first place. That right there is a kind of emotional freedom. And once you taste it, you'll wonder why you ever lived without it. Now, this next truth builds on everything we've just talked about. Because once you stop expecting others to change, something powerful happens. You start focusing inward. You begin leading yourself. You stop trying to control people. And you start asking, how can I show up better? That's the real shift. From control to leadership. From reaction to presence. From frustration to calm. When you begin leading yourself, instead of trying to manage everyone else, you take your power back. Not the kind of power that controls other people, but the kind that keeps you steady, even when the world feels wobbly. You stop chasing people for apologies. You stop needing them to behave a certain way so you can feel okay. And instead, you ask the simple but powerful question, what's actually in my control right now? That shift, from fixing others to grounding yourself, changes everything. And it brings us right to the next principle. Pause before you react. Now, this one is harder than it sounds, especially when emotions rise fast. Maybe someone cuts in line. Maybe a loved one says something that hits a nerve. Maybe you read a text message that just doesn't sit right. Before you know it, you feel that heat rising in your chest. And the words are right there, ready to fire back. But what if instead of reacting in that instant, you just paused? Not forever, just for a moment, just long enough to ask yourself, what story am I telling myself right now? Is this about them? Or is this about something deeper in me? Sometimes we're not reacting to the moment. We're reacting to years of similar moments, old wounds, old patterns. And if we don't pause, we repeat the cycle. The pause doesn't make the situation disappear, but it gives us a window, a tiny moment of freedom, to choose something better, to respond instead of react, to lead with clarity, not just emotion. And when we do speak, that brings us to another principle that can transform how we relate to others. Communicate to connect, not to win. You know this already. Most arguments don't actually solve anything. Why? Because both people are just trying to be right. They're not listening to understand. They're listening to reload, waiting for their turn to talk, planning their next comeback while the other person is still speaking. That's not communication. That's combat. So the next time you feel the pull to prove your point, try asking yourself, do I want to be right? Or do I want to stay connected? Sometimes the calmest voice in the room has the most power. Not because they shout the loudest, but because they listen with intention and speak with care. Try lowering your voice instead of raising it. Try saying, "Help me understand what you meant by that," instead of, "How could you say that to me?" One builds bridges, the other builds walls. And at this stage in life, don't you think it's time to stop building walls? That kind of shift isn't always easy, but you'd be amazed at how often it leads to healing. Healing in relationships, healing in your mind, and even healing in your body. Which brings us to something we often overlook. Your body speaks before your words do. Listen to it. Most of us wait until we explode to realize we've been carrying stress all day. But your body gives you signs. Tight jaw, shallow breathing, tension in your shoulders, that feeling in your gut that something's off. Your body knows. Sometimes even before your mind does. And if you can start tuning in earlier, pausing when the tension starts, you can catch the reaction before it takes over. You can say, I'm clenching my fists. Something's bothering me. Or, I haven't taken a deep breath in an hour. Let me slow down. These little cues matter. They help you stay ahead of the storm instead of being swept up in it. Because when your body is tight, your emotions follow. But when you relax even just a little, your perspective shifts. You make better decisions. You protect your peace. And that leads to one of the most important truths of all. You can always choose your response. Even when you can't choose your circumstance, people will say things that hurt. Life will throw things at you that you didn't expect. But you still have a choice. Will you let it control your emotions? Or will you take a breath, step back, and choose how you want to show up? It doesn't mean pretending to be okay when you're not. It means being honest without being destructive. It means holding your ground without losing your grace. There's a kind of quiet pride in staying calm when everything around you is shouting. And the more you practice it, the stronger it gets. Now, I know there are days when that feels impossible. Days when everything feels too loud, too fast, too frustrating. But here's a secret weapon that helps even in those moments. Gratitude. I know. It's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot. But hear me out. You can't feel deeply grateful and deeply angry at the same time. It's like trying to look in two directions at once. One has to win. Gratitude doesn't erase the problem, but it gives your heart a place to stand while the storm passes. When you feel the anger rising, try this. Pause. Breathe. Then name 3 things you're grateful for. Maybe it's your grandchildren. Maybe it's your morning coffee. Maybe it's the fact that you've lived through storms before, and you're still standing. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. Gratitude brings you back to what's solid. It reminds you that there's still beauty in your life, even on the hardest days. It's not weakness. It's not denial. It's wisdom in motion. Gratitude, when practiced regularly, becomes more than just a tool. It becomes a mindset, a way of seeing the world, not through rose-colored glasses, but through grounded awareness. You stop expecting every moment to go your way. And instead, you meet life with presence and appreciation for what is. And when that mindset takes root, it naturally leads to something we don't talk about enough. Protecting your energy. Every day your attention is pulled in different directions. By news, by noise, by people who want something from you. Sometimes it's someone close who drains you without even realizing it. Other times it's someone who knows exactly how to get under your skin. But you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Protecting your calm doesn't mean avoiding life. It means being intentional about what deserves your focus. Because your attention, your emotional energy, isn't limitless. It's a currency. Spend it wisely. Ask yourself, does this truly deserve my time and energy? If the answer is no, let it go. You don't need to explain. You don't need to defend. Your peace is reason enough. Which brings us to a powerful truth that can free you from a lot of emotional heaviness. You are not responsible for other people's storms. Let that settle in for a second. You are not responsible for how someone else processes their anger or sadness or fear. You're not responsible for fixing their bad day, healing their past, or absorbing their moods. You can be kind. You can be supportive. You can even offer guidance if it's welcome. But you are not the emotional cleanup crew. And when you stop making other people's chaos your problem, you give them something better than control. You give them space. The space to face their own patterns. The space to grow. And most importantly, you give yourself room to breathe. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop carrying what was never yours to begin with. Now that brings us to something many of us wrestle with, especially those of us who've lived through our share of heartaches and regrets. Letting go. Letting go is not weakness. It's wisdom in motion. We think holding on means we're strong. That if we keep replaying what someone did or keep holding on to that grudge, we're protecting ourselves from it happening again. But the truth is, when you hold on to pain, you don't prevent it. You prolong it. The person who hurt you, they might be living their life completely unaware that you're still carrying that moment like a wound. Meanwhile, you're losing sleep, replaying conversations, reopening old scars. Letting go doesn't mean saying what they did was okay. It means saying, I'm done letting it define me. It means I've carried this long enough. Now I'm putting it down. And that single act of release can feel like taking a deep breath after years of holding it in. Because the truth is, calm isn't something that just shows up. It's something you build. And like anything you build, it takes practice. Which brings us to this final reminder. Calm is a practice. Track it like your highest score. You can turn emotional discipline into a kind of inner game. How many times today could you have reacted, but didn't? How many times did you choose stillness instead of stress? How many times did you pause, breathe, and return to yourself? That's your scoreboard. Start small. When someone interrupts you, don't bite. When someone complains, don't absorb. When something inconvenient happens, let it be what it is. Then count it as a win. Not for pride, not to brag, but because those moments, those tiny victories, are how strength is built. And little by little, you start to notice something. You're not as easily rattled. You're not living on edge. You're not waiting for the world to behave so you can feel okay. You've taken back your peace. And that peace? It's not passive. It's powerful. It leads people. It anchors families. It heals relationships. It inspires trust. There's nothing soft about calm. It's made of fire that doesn't burn, of light that doesn't blind, of strength that doesn't scream. You've lived enough life to know that storms come. But now, you also know. You don't have to be the storm. You can be the steady center. So, as you move forward today, whether you're dealing with family stress, unexpected change, or just the little things that chip away at your patience, Remember this. You are allowed to be calm. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to walk away from things that don't feel right. You are allowed to live your life from the inside out, not the outside in. And when you do, you'll feel it. That quiet shift, that deep breath, that strength. You're not here to prove anything. You're here to live with grace. If this message spoke to something real in you, I'd love to hear about it. Share your thoughts in the comments. What helps you stay calm? What reminders do you carry with you each day? And if you want more uplifting, grounded content like this, please like this video and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life. It helps us reach more hearts, just like yours. Here's to living your best life at any age. Here's to fewer reactions and more reflection. Here's to peace, not as a reward, but as a practice. One breath, one choice, one moment at a time. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay grounded, stay growing, and stay calm.